The scent of Lindsay's perfume lingered after she left, having arrived early for her strategy workshop at noon in Charlotte. I didn't bother glancing up from my coffee as she gave me a casual kiss goodbye, more like brushing lips against my temple, the kind of greeting one might give to a doorman or an unfamiliar uncle. I merely muttered, "Good luck," and she departed, leaving her smartwatch behind on its charger, appearing to taunt me, the same device she always wore even during showers. She often conversed with it as if it were a tiny pet. Remind me to call Dana, play my cardio mix, text Eric, be home late. But today, it remained silent. Hours had passed, and her parents' house was still calm, the afternoon sun streaming through the lace curtains in that tranquil suburban manner that can sometimes give a false impression of peace. I was there from the weekend, helping her father recuperate following his knee surgery. Years ago, his affection for me surpassed his feelings for her, yet it took time for that revelation to dawn on me. Her mother had momentarily left to buy groceries, and I sat in the den, pretending to peruse a cooking show while the TV hummed. It was then that my eyes fell upon her charger, specifically her watch. I reacted instinctively, rising from my seat, pocketing the watch, and settling on the couch. With a casual click, I opened the AirPlay menu, discovering her father's TV among the options. I selected it, and as the connection stabilized, a picture emerged. Lindsay, hotel bathroom, wearing a black crop top and panties unknown to me. Her hair was styled elegantly, her lips glossed seductively. That gaze no longer belonged to me. It reflected a new intimacy I no longer shared. The subsequent image displayed a man's chest in the frame, his shirt open, her hand on him. She sat astride him, scarcely clothed, flirting provocatively with the camera, as if challenging it to expose the web of deceit she had woven around herself. I found myself abruptly standing up. Dear friends, if you enjoy this story, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will motivate us to make more videos like this for you. My heart pounded as blood surged to my head. I clutched the couch, causing its fake leather to split. There were numerous individuals in the same hotel room from her recent conference. We were both drinking from a champagne bottle, an expense that had appeared on our joint credit card a week prior, labeled under Client Entertainment. A video started playing automatically. It was a brief clip of them in bed, not engaging in anything explicit, but suggestive enough. He spoke, and she laughed, her high-pitched, false, cackling laugh, the one she had only used with people she sought to impress recently and hadn't addressed me with for months. I unplugged the television. My father's voice called from the kitchen, asking if the TV was malfunctioning again. I remained silent, merely standing there, my hand trembling while the other stayed still, as a void echoed within me, like I had entered an alternate version of my life that didn't feel like mine. For months, I had been posing incorrect questions. Is she weary? Is work causing tension? Does she desire solitude? Is she content? However, the solution proved to be more straightforward. She required another person's companionship, and she found it. I remained parked outside her parents' house for 26 minutes, observing the minute hand move leisurely around the inexpensive dashboard clock. I did not weep. I did not shout. Instead, I sat there, with the smartwatch on the passenger seat, as if it were a forbidden relic I dared not handle again, its lingering scent of her lotion still present. Without any deliberation, I started driving along unfamiliar routes past the high school where Lindsay and I once shared a kiss behind the bleachers. The recollection of that moment made me queasy. Back then, she would grip my arm and press her face against it, as if I provided comfort, as if I were her sanctuary. Currently, she was engaged in some unspecified actions with a man who wasn't me, while I remained a passive spectator gripping a steering wheel and counting each breath. My destination became a park by the reservoir, where I found myself alone, save for a few geese and the biting wind blowing sideways. I wandered over to the bench we frequented during the pandemic. She would bring those offensive protein cookies, and we spoke about how life would return to normal soon. I recall her saying once, "I think we'll emerge from this stronger." I had faith in her words. I restarted my watch, and my notifications continued to function. A message appeared on the screen from someone labeled as J. The message contained no affectionate gestures or suggestive phrases. Instead, it consisted solely of a letter. I clicked on it. The preview showed the content of the messages we exchanged for months, meticulously sanitized and trimmed to avoid suspicion. Her message read, "I can't wait for tonight. The room is ready. Bring that red dress." That was the garment from the photo. My mouth went dry upon reading this. I opened the Messages app, and our entire thread appeared on the screen. Not overtly dirty, yet unsettling enough to induce a creepy feeling. You were exceptional during our last encounter, and your legs around me are still etched in my memory. That soft sound you make when... I abruptly ceased reading. I discarded the watch as if it had scorched me. It landed on the gravel, shattering its screen. Fitting. I resumed my seat on the bench, fixing my gaze on the water. I wasn't prepared to act or confront her, not just yet. I needed time to ponder, to determine my desires. Vengeance, resolution, answers? Perhaps none of it. But one thing was certain. I wouldn't be the man who meekly gave way while my wife reveled in another man's hotel bedsheets. I retrieved the watch. The crack spanned the screen like a tectonic fault line. I murmured, "Lindsay, you've made a mistake." By the time I arrived home that night, the world appeared altered. Not darker, but clearer, as if someone had peeled away the fog I'd been living in and left the raw truth to glare at me. The porch light flickered intermittently. I'd meant to repair it weeks ago. Instead of rushing inside immediately, I remained in the car, listening to the cooling engine's soft ticks while my hands gripped each other tightly. The final message from Jay echoed in my mind, word by word, his smooth, insinuating tone, his familiarity, all resonated uncomfortably. Suddenly, a realization struck me. I had met him before, even if it wasn't confirmed yet. What he was doing with her, the way they interacted, it wasn't how strangers behaved. It felt intimate, too close for a casual acquaintance. I found myself scrutinizing faces, her colleagues, her gym trainer, our neighbor 2 doors down who always waved excessively as she jogged by. Nausea gripped me. The house still bore her scent, that sweet vanilla trail she left behind, hinting at ownership. Our dog, Baxter, nuzzled against me, oblivious to my turmoil, wagging his tail unaware. I dropped to my knees, pressing my forehead to his and murmuring, "I'm not sure what I'm about to do, buddy." I needed answers. I required irrefutable evidence to free myself from her manipulation. I wouldn't engage in a dramatic showdown unprepared, while she deceived me with a feigned tear and a battery of lies ready as counselors. So I did what I hadn't done for years. I accessed her laptop, the same password, our wedding date. The screen illuminated as if it had been anticipating. She seldom used her laptop for work, but her messages were conspicuously absent with everything. There it was, the same conversation thread with Jay, the same vulgarity, yet more explicit this time, incriminating notes even. One of them played unintentionally as I clicked, her voice soft and breathy saying his name. Jason. My jaw clenched. Jason. Her coworker. The one I had prepared grilled chicken for last summer when he visited during a project weekend. The one who thanked me with a beer and said, "You've got a good one, man." I fixed my gaze on the screen, and all I could see was his face. I recalled how he looked at her when she wasn't looking. He hesitated slightly when giving her documents, and Lindsay found his jokes amusing despite their lack of humor. I attributed it to office friendship. I believed in her. I surveyed the room with our framed photos from our honeymoon in Charleston hanging on the walls, now seeming alien, as if I had trespassed into someone else's home. The anger didn't strike suddenly, but seeped in gradually, like a leak in a ship's hull. I was drowning. I couldn't shout because it wasn't a shock anymore. She was unfaithful, with him, for months. Lindsay had merely been pretending, fixing porch lights and folding laundry while she stealthily slipped away bit by bit. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow she would return, and I would be waiting. The following morning I awoke in a house that felt unfamiliar. Our bed remained untouched. I had spent the night on the couch under a throw blanket barely covering my knees, and Baxter was curled up at my feet like a silent observer. I hadn't truly slept. Gazing at the ceiling, I heard the refrigerator hum and the occasional groan of the wooden beams overhead, as if the house itself was embarrassed. Lindsay's flight was scheduled to arrive at 10:50 a.m., a fact I had confirmed multiple times. Then double-checked. Then monitored obsessively, like tracking a storm. I hadn't told her I was coming to pick her up. She believed I was still at her parents' place. That's what made it ideal. Exactly at 10:42, I parked in the lower lot at Arrivals, strategically positioned to watch the sliding doors. I didn't feel anxious. I felt nothing. Truly, not yet. The sense of anticipation had set in around 4 a.m. when I listened to that voice message on repeat until her voice seemed unfamiliar. And then she appeared, wearing sunglasses, a gray cardigan, effortlessly pushing her navy suitcase behind her as if it weighed nothing. Her hair was tied up in a bun, relaxed and carefree, but there was a radiance to her complexion, a laxness in her shoulders that I hadn't observed in a while, not the radiance from her professional engagements. Initially, she didn't notice me. She was engrossed in her phone, likely texting him, possibly expressing gratitude for last night, and already missing him. Upon my emergence from the car, she barely registered my presence before I approached her. When she did, there was a slight twitch, barely discernible, but noticeable to me. "Eric," she uttered, attempting to conceal her phone in her bag without arousing suspicion. "What brings you here?" I responded with a smile. "A visit. Figured I'd catch you off guard." She hesitated before responding. "Ah, that's thoughtful." Her speech was sluggish, sticking to her teeth like gum. She gave me a one-armed hug. No kiss. We traveled in relative quiet for most of the journey home. She inquired about how my stay with her parents went. I informed her it was uneventful. I didn't bring up the TV, the watch, or Jason. Instead, I said we needed to discuss something. Her body stiffened, and she turned her gaze out of the window. Straight to the bathroom, she retreated to refresh, while I stood in the hallway as the door sealed shut, echoing countless minor squabbles. Now it seemed fortified, a stronghold where she was devising some plausible narrative. 10 minutes elapsed before she reemerged, her visage tranquil, makeup slightly renewed, hair loose and carefree to disarm me. "What's happening?" I inquired silently. Without response, I ambled towards the dining table, opened my laptop, and displayed the message thread with Jason. The part where he complimented her appearance in the red dress was already visible. Her jaw tightened so swiftly it seemed audible. She didn't utter a word, nor shed tears. Instead, she merely scrutinized the screen and posed the initial query. "Did you snoop through my belongings?" The first words from her mouth weren't an apology or an explanation, but a question about privacy. Her tone was accusatory, as if I were the antagonist in her private narrative. It was then that the numbness subsided, and anger took its place. "Did you go through my things?" she repeated, this time more forcefully, as if saying it louder would make me ignore what I had seen. I remained stoic. "You left your watch on the charger," I simply stated. "It wasn't hidden or password protected, Lindsay. It was visible on your father's TV while your mother baked banana bread in the next room." Her face paled momentarily, and for a brief instant, I thought she might faint. But then her expression changed, her eyes narrowed, her shoulders straightened, and an event that I will always remember ensued. She actually rolled her eyes. "Well done. So what? You rummaged through my messages to find whatever you were looking for. Good job." She slumped into the kitchen chair, as if I had wronged her. "You're incredible," she added, spying on me like an insecure stalker. The word insecure echoed like a gunshot. "Isn't that the one you frequently resort to?" She attempted to discredit, redirect. Her betrayal shattered my trust, felt like a sign of emotional fragility in my eyes, not hers. I leaned across the table, confronting her. "You're involved with Jason. Don't try to hide it by claiming this is about checking your devices. This is about you deceiving me for months, lying to my face while you claimed work trips when in reality you were sharing a life with another man." She smirked, responding, "He makes me feel alive," she said, crossing her arms. "You don't see me anymore, Eric. You've been distant for years. That revelation hurt more than I anticipated, because deep down, I thought it might be true. And you knew it." She watched my expression and followed up with, "We were merely roommates, Eric. Don't act as if this was a perfect marriage that just unraveled overnight. You stopped caring, stopped noticing me. I felt lonely. Instead of talking to me, you found someone else, lied, constructed another life." She implied that I should feel remorseful for scrutinizing the facts. There was no response forthcoming. She collected her belongings and rose. "I'm staying at Dana's for a few days," she announced. "Dana's?" I questioned. "We're Jason's," she clarified, pausing briefly before flashing a genuine sharp smile. "Seems you'll have to ponder that." She departed then, without an apology, breakdown, or effort to rectify the situation. All I heard were her heels echoing down the corridor, the front door opening, and subsequently, silence. For what seemed like hours, I remained in the kitchen with Baxter, who was uneasy due to the discernible change. Eventually I sat down, not because I was weary, but because my body failed to maintain its balance. The woman I wedded had vanished. Perhaps she'd disappeared longer than I suspected, yet now I was certain Now it was factual. The dwelling seemed quieter than ever before. Not tranquil, rather, lifeless. Like the essence had been extracted, leaving behind mere walls and furnishings. Lindsay's toothbrush remained in its holder, while her shoes stayed neatly arranged by the entrance. Yet she was absent. She had departed with merely her bag and a sly grin, leaving an eerie hush that echoed like static within my ears. I neither consumed nor bathed on that day. Instead, I wandered aimlessly, caressing the photo frames as if they could disclose the instant she ceased loving me. Our wedding snapshot appeared contrived now, overly idealistic. The gaze she bestowed upon me seemed insincere, perhaps. Or maybe it was my perspective that had altered. In the evening, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Jason. I hadn't anticipated this. He wrote, "I know you witnessed everything. I'm sorry it unfolded as such." There was no repentance for his actions, only remorse about the manner in which it transpired, as if discovering it later, or never at all, our situation would have remained intact. I gazed at the screen and understood this man believed he was the protagonist of our tale. He considered himself her savior from a loveless union. He viewed me as an afterthought. Didn't respond to his message. I wasn't giving him the gratification of knowing I'd read it. However, that message triggered something in me. I retrieved the file folder I kept in the cabinet. Bank accounts, insurance policies, mortgage papers, everything. I hadn't touched it since we got married. It was our emergency plan, our just in case. Now it seemed we were facing the case. We hadn't asked for a divorce yet, but the tension felt like a storm brewing on the horizon. I didn't want to be caught off guard again. So I made a list. Lawyer, separation of bank accounts, password changes, home security update, removal of her access to everything. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my space, my life. That night, I began making the changes, changing every password, transferring my share of our savings into a separate account, calling a locksmith early in the morning. The actions were calculated and detached, but they were mine. And still, every few hours, I'd glance at the door, half expecting to hear her keys. A fragment of me, the foolish, devoted part, clung to hope that she'd return, with tear-marked face and a heartfelt apology. But all I received was deafening silence. Silence, I was slowly understanding, spoke volumes 2.3 days later. Not a peep from Lindsay. No phone calls, no messages, no hollow apologies, no empty excuses. Nothing. It seemed as if she'd been biding her time, waiting for the chance to vanish, and once I opened the door, she dashed through it without a glance back. Very well, let her flee. I was already constructing a life devoid of her presence. That Friday morning, I visited a lawyer, sleek office, Spartan decor, a place where people enter bound and exit frayed. Her name was Marla. She'd navigated this kind of situation countless times. Yet she heard me out intently as I recounted the affair, the photos, the messages, the watch. "I want out," I told her. She merely nodded once. No sympathy in her gaze, only keen awareness. We delved into assets, accounts, the house, no children. Praise be to God. She wouldn't have been able to handle it. She wasn't listed on the property title. She questioned. No, she had moved into my home after college without being officially added. As I left the office, the paperwork for removing her name was in progress. Something inside me felt unstuck, not exactly relief, but a sense of movement. That night, Lindsay contacted me. "Can we talk?" I pondered over the message for a full minute before responding. "Tomorrow, noon, house, 1 hour." I didn't inquire about her well-being. I didn't care. The following day, she arrived precisely at noon, with the same suitcase but a different outfit. She looked smaller, more fragile this time, without makeup and her hair pulled back. It seemed as if she was attempting to appear harmless. She entered the house as if she still lived there, surveying the changes like she was searching for something missing. The hook where her key used to hang, the empty space where her favorite blanket had once hung, and the photos she'd taken down already replaced by neutral frames were all noticeable. "Did you replace the locks?" she questioned. "Affirmative." A moment of stillness ensued, followed by her seating herself opposite me at the kitchen table, the same one where I had previously confronted her. The atmosphere was heavy, not with tension, but rather guilt and distance. She began to speak. I acknowledged her words without response. Leaning forward, she propped her elbows on the table, trying to establish an equal footing. "I hadn't intended for it to happen," she explained. "Jason, it just transpired. We were both in a difficult situation. The silence prolonged. Then I inquired, "Are you still with him?" She hesitated before responding. "We are working things out," she admitted. This revelation spoke volumes. She didn't come to resolve the issue, she came to negotiate. She aimed to present her account, shed a few tears, possibly secure better terms for herself. So I pushed a file across the table. Upon opening it, she saw the documents. Her expression shifted. "You've already filed," she whispered softly. I hadn't anticipated you'd follow through, that very phrase, because it suggested she believed I'd accept it, that I'd submit, mourn, contest for her, yield crumbs. We still possess that degree of control. She erred. I rose up. "You have 45 minutes left." Lindsay stayed quiet for a full minute, only gazing at the divorce papers as if they were inscribed in an alien tongue. Her fingers hovered near the edge of the folder, hesitant between closing it or tearing it apart. "You're truly ending this," she said at last, looking at me. "I ended it the moment I saw the photographs. This is merely legal formalities." She flinched, as if the truth struck harder than any other words I could have uttered. She attempted again. "Eric, we crafted a life together. We've had 9 years. Aren't you just going to discard all of that?" I almost chuckled. "You discarded it," I said, "when you started secretly seeing your coworker. When you asserted that you were attending a conference and were discovered in a hotel room 2 hours away, dressing up for a man who contacted you about your personal matter." Her cheeks reddened. "That's unfair," she retorted. I intervened. "What exactly is unfair, Lindsay? That I didn't uncover your deception sooner? That you left your watch behind, enabling me to piece together the puzzle? Or that your lies ran out of breath?" She rose abruptly, causing her chair to screech against the floor. Her tone became sharp. "You always do this. You assume the virtuous position as if you're blameless. But you weren't exactly innocent either, Eric. You were engrossed in work. You neglected to acknowledge my presence when I entered a room." "It was you, not me," I countered. "Do not stand within this house and attempt to attribute your infidelity to my actions. I was preoccupied with building a life, to support its weight while you were secretly dismantling it behind my back." She tried again, her voice softening. "We could have salvaged it if you truly wanted to," I responded. "No. You asked me to mend things while you were entertained by Jason. That wasn't a union. It was a swindle. There was an unspoken tension, unyielding, indestructible." I picked up her luggage, headed towards the exit. "Almost there?" she inquired. "Do you still feel for me?" The question halted me. I gazed at her, truly saw her, and recognized the Lindsay that shared my laughter, my journeys, and my music playlists. Then I remembered the Lindsay portrayed on the screen, intertwined with another man, mocking me behind my back. So I responded truthfully, "I can't recognize you anymore. Therefore, no. I don't believe I do." That resonated. I saw it in her eyes. She nodded once. No more dialogue. No more charades. Then she departed. No dramatic slam. Just the soft click of a door that ended one story and opened up to something fresh. The house didn't sound silent anymore. It felt like mine. For the first time in years, I didn't wander around feeling like a spirit in my own dwelling. Her coat wasn't on its usual hook by the door. Her scent didn't linger in the hallway. The air felt lighter, as if a harmful substance had been expelled. Over the subsequent days, I engaged in more than mere tidying. It was purification. I took down old photographs, packed away her belongings, her jewelry, books, that perpetual mug she left in the bathroom sink, all removed, gone. I stored everything in 2 large plastic containers, labeled with her name, and kept them in the garage. She didn't ask for them, didn't contact me. That was fine. I needed the room. And in that emptiness, understanding began to flow. I recognized how long I had been bearing the burden of our fractured marriage single-handedly. All those minor instances I had attributed to stress or routine. The emotional distance, the indifferent tone, the nights she neglected to say goodnight. They weren't coincidental. They were signals, and I chose to overlook each one because I was terrified of what they might signify. I rationalized that love required upkeep. You mend the sink, you take the dog for a walk, you tolerate the mood swings and the distant behavior. Yet I comprehend it now. Love isn't meant to exhaust you, but nourish you. And Lindsay? She drained me. She didn't contribute to this life with me. She exploited it. She resided in it like a temporary tenant, exploring her next opportunity the whole time. I began reclaiming aspects of my life, my schedule, my concentration. I returned to the gym, reconnected with friends I had grown apart from, spent a weekend helping my brother move, merely to escape the house and recall what normalcy felt like. Each time I saw a couple laughing in public, I steeled myself for a pang. But it never materialized. Instead, I just kept thinking, good for them. I hope they're truthful with each other, because now I recognize the true betrayal wasn't merely the deceit. It was how effortless it had been for her, how detached, how strategically planned, and that made one thing abundantly clear. I didn't lose a spouse, I lost a deceiver. On a Tuesday, I encountered Jason once more. The meeting wasn't intentional. I hadn't even known he would be there. At the local Italian eatery in the financial district, I shared a meal with a colleague. A bustling spot filled with business people and swift conferences. Seated just a couple of tables away was the man in question, enjoying Pinot as if nothing weighed on his mind. Initially, he failed to notice me, but after a brief moment of observation, I scrutinized him closely. He appeared ordinary, unremarkable, just a tall man with an overabundance of cologne and an air of arrogance only someone untouched by consequences could possess. As our eyes locked, it seemed as if a mental switch was triggered within him. His laughter ceased, his posture stiffened, and I detected a fleeting trace of guilt, a hint of doubt. He recognized me. With deliberate slowness, he stood up from his seat, abandoned his drink, and approached as if we were about to exchange polite gestures and fabricated regrets. "Eric," he began unexpectedly. I raised a hand to stop him. "Don't," I said firmly. He paused, interrupting himself mid-sentence. "I don't want your apology," I declared. "I don't want your excuses. I don't care about the tales she spun for you regarding our marriage. She's yours. But there's a point you need to grasp." Leaning slightly closer, he looked at me intently. "You didn't conquer her. You were chosen. There's a distinction." His eyes widened, clearly unprepared for that. "You believe yourself to be the savior," I continued, "the man who freed her from monotony. However, I observed her maintaining a straight face in lies for months, and she will deceive you as well, though perhaps not immediately or within a year. But it's innate to her, that facade. It cracks. When it does, you'll experience what it's like to lie beside someone who regards love as a disguise." Jason swallowed audibly without responding. I left him no opportunity for response, instead choosing to exit and settle my bill on the way out. My colleague didn't inquire. I believe he sensed that something significant had transpired, something I required. And truthfully, I anticipated feeling triumphant or victorious upon delivering my final blow. But instead, I felt a sense of tranquility, closure, the missing piece, the last fragment. I climbed into my vehicle, lowered the window, and for the first time in months, I took a deep breath that didn't feel like suffocation. Lindsay didn't contact me after that, not following the submission of the documents, not upon seeing Jason. She disappeared as liars often do, quietly, without saying goodbye, making her absence seem less painful if she just blended into the surroundings. However, an odd thing happened when the last court document arrived, the one sealed with the stamp. I didn't feel sorrow. I felt lighter, as if I had exited a fog I hadn't realized I was living in. The house transformed, not merely its layout, but its atmosphere. I repositioned furniture, gave away the couch we purchased together, repainted the office, began sleeping better. Baxter ceased his nightly pacing. He used to sit by the door as if waiting for her. That's over now. My phone no longer vibrated with insignificant check-ins. No more delayed texts pretending to be late. No more dishonest gazes across dinner. Just quietness, a tranquil solitude. In the stillness, I resurfaced myself anew, revisiting pastimes forgotten, strumming guitar after decades, treading trails, chuckling unburdened by guilt lodged within my chest like a boulder. I ceased doubting every action. My speech, my value, my intuition. The most profound shift? I ceased offering apologies for damage not inflicted. People began taking notice. Long-lost companions extended contact. One of them, Kara, an old workmate, proposed a group excursion upstate. A fleeting weekend escape with fine folk, bonfires, brews, and no trouble. I was on the verge of declining. Then it struck me. This was my existence now. No deception, no alibis. So I accepted. And for the first time in a prolonged while, I didn't sense the anticipation of impending doom. I laughed, I shared tales, I dwelt in the present, and then it dawned on me. This is what liberation feels like. Not solitary, not fractured, not enraged, just liberated. I am unsure about Lindsay's current activities. Her situation no longer concerns me. Whether she remains with Jason or deceives others is none of my business. She attempted to destroy my life, but instead, she only paved the way for something more promising to flourish. 6 months have passed, and our divorce is finalized. Boxes labeled with her name remain untouched in the garage, gathering dust. I once considered discarding them, even burning them, but now they hold no significance. They're merely possessions, echoes of a life I don't yearn for. People persistently ask the same questions. Do you repent it? Would you change anything? Do you still ponder her? The reality is, yes, I occasionally think about her. It's not easy to forget someone with whom you shared almost a decade. I recall how she would tilt her head when feigning interest, the playlists she created for lengthy drives, her smiles when she was dishonest. It's all vividly etched in my memory, like revisiting a museum exhibit while blindfolded. However, regret is absent. I lament not perceiving it sooner instead. I mourn the nights I surrendered to doubt while she was tirelessly working late. I lament concealing myself for the sake of our marriage's appearance. Yet, leaving and dismantling the facade? No, I would make that choice 100 times over. Here's something they don't tell you about deceit. It's liberating. It rips apart your foundation, indeed, but it also compels you to construct a new one, piece by honest piece. And this time, I am building it for myself, without deception, without manipulation, just solid ground. If you're reading this and you sense an inner voice, the whispers in your chest that something isn't right, heed it. You aren't delusional. You aren't paranoid. You are picking up on the truth beneath someone else's performance. Don't disregard it. And if you've been deceived, cheated on, disrespected, understand this. You are not shattered. You are not valueless. You are merely seeing things as they truly are, not as you wish them to be. I lost a spouse, but I found clarity. I found tranquility. Someday, it's uncertain when, I'll encounter someone who embraces sincerity without reservation, not masking hidden secrets with a smile. For now, I am content, more than content. I am vigilant, and I vow never to lapse into such unconsciousness again.